Yo, what is going on YouTube? It is GZTV. This video may seem kind of unorganized. There's a hair on my camera, but we're here to talk about the 2014 American supernatural horror film directed by John R. Leonetti, written by Gary Doberman, and produced by Peter Safran and James Wan. We have the original Annabelle film. Yes, we watched the prequel first, and now we are getting into this one. Here it is, Annabelle. After watching Annabelle Creation just a couple of days ago, and honestly enjoying it a lot more than I expected, I wanted to see how the story continued, or I guess in this case, how it kind of started, since Creation is technically the prequel. The prequel, kind of everything that led up into the original. I was very curious to see how they handled this original film. Obviously, Annabelle being an actual, like, real-life thing. It's based on a true story. I mean, obviously, a lot of that's, like, mythological and fab and all, but there you go. I'll be honest, I didn't go into this one with any real expectations. I wasn't hyped. I wasn't skeptical. I just kind of pressed play to see where the story goes next. Obviously, we have to get through this. Like, it's Halloween. I'm watching this damn franchise. And honestly, the opening had me. The whole cultist sequence, the neighbors getting attacked, and how it directly ties the doll into this demonic presence. That's a strong way to start. It felt darker, more grounded in that human evil becomes supernatural evil kind of way, which I think works well. Seeing that chaos spill into a normal couple's life was actually a pretty solid setup. It's not as eerie or emotional as Creation's opening, but it's still effective. This movie takes a very different direction in terms of setting, which I respect as well. We'll get into all the nitty-gritty later, but gone is the big haunted farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. Now we're in an apartment complex, late 1960s California, dealing with a young couple expecting their first baby. It's a classic normal life turned upside down setup, and I actually like that change of scenery. It keeps things fresh within the franchise, even if I'd probably still pick the farmhouse over the apartment any day. The first one's just more eerie, but hey, it worked for what they were going for, so let's just get into all the details. I'm reading this off my phone, by the way, so if I'm looking down a lot, that is why, but let's get into the premise. So you follow a young couple, Mia and John. They experience a terrifying home invasion by members of a satanic cult, which is probably the scariest moment of the entire movie, and in the aftermath, one of the cultists dies while clutching the couple's vintage doll, Annabelle. It's one of those like classic things, and I thought it was very weird that Mia had this like infatuation with dolls in the first place. You're kind of just asking for it, you fucking creep. And from there, strange things start happening. The doll gets cursed, blood like falls into her eyes. There's that whole imagery. The doll seems to move on its own, objects fall, doors creak, and before long, the couple realizes something much darker attached itself to that doll, and they're quickly realizing like, yeah, it is the doll that is doing this. Now, the story here is decent, not great, not bad, just very standard, very generic. It's easy to follow, and for someone coming right off of Creation, it feels a bit disconnected, but it's still a pretty understandable point. I don't really like when franchises completely go to like a different family that's not connected at all to who's in the original films and the prequels and stuff. I just thought it was kind of weird there. If you're going to market it as a prequel, have the same type of characters around. I think that's what makes a franchise so interesting. You don't have to work hard to piece it together. Obviously, though, it's simple horror structure 101. It's not quite as atmospheric or layered as Creation, though. That one had more craft behind the way it kind of built tension. Again, we'll get into that later. Here, things are a bit more straightforward, more about the shock than the slow burn. That said, I did like how it ties back into the Conjuring universe, even if it's a little on the nose. The ending with the Warrens getting involved and Annabelle ending up in the famous glass case is a nice touch for continuity. Now, this is a spoiler review. I will be going through a lot of the hard details, so just keep that in mind. But I'll admit, that final bit where some random woman buys the doll from an antique shop, yeah, that's pretty corny. That could probably go into the bad. It's a we gotta connect it somehow moment that's more functional than cool, so we'll get into all that here in a second in specifics. So starting with the good, I would say there's probably more bad to say than good, but let's talk about what this movie actually does well. For starters, I really liked the cult angle that they took at the beginning of the film, and I wish they would have incorporated it a little better throughout the movie. That stuff is inherently creepy, and it makes the possession feel more personal. It's not just a random haunting, it's something that was literally brought into their home by evil people. That's very effective. I think, again, that is an amazing way to kind of bring Annabelle forth and bring the curse forth. I think that whole concept of it. Now, I don't know if that's what happened in real life, where they were suspecting that the doll was causing hauntings in this house, but for the sake of the movie, for the sake of the franchise, this is basically the introduction, because we kind of had the calm before the storm with Creation, but it's really effective what they did here. Visually, I think the demon looks cool. He was kind of put in the prequel as well. I think his name's like Malthmus or something like that. It's supposed to like resemble the devil and all this stuff, and yeah, that gets kind of shaky. A lot of religious people are probably going to be in my comments. I'm a religious guy myself. I'm just watching this for pure entertainment. I'm not really moved by that at all. I can acknowledge evil presences in my life, but it's a movie. I mean, come on, a lot of this is fabricated. It is based off a true story, but a lot of this is fabricated. Maybe not as terrifying as the black shadowy presence in Creation, but still memorable enough. The tension is there, even if it's not particularly scary. There are moments where the film tries to go quiet and build suspense. suspense, and I think those scenes are when it's at its best. And it's not the scariest movie in the world, but I do like that it focuses more on the evil presence of the demon, although he could have been included in this film a little bit more. I do like how they focus on that more than just like a doll and just be coming back to life as a spirit. Mia, the main character, was a solid lead, I would say. She's believable as a first-time mom trying to keep it together while all this insane stuff is happening. Her husband, though, yeah, I'm not a big fan of his. I can go ahead and talk about him here. Dude just feels emotionally detached the entire movie, and I did not like his character. When he suddenly believes her story later on, it's like, bro, where was this energy the last hour of the film? It didn't really make a lot of sense. It's not a performance issue. I think the actors and actresses all did well for what they were given. It's just how the character's written. Evelyn, on the other hand, she was a nice surprise. I actually liked her character quite a bit. She's warm, likable, feels like the kind of person you'd actually want around in a horror movie, kind of for some support. She was good. She adds some humanity to all the chaos. Her scenes kind of ground the movie a bit, even if her storyline ends kind of predictably. It's like, yeah, I mean, I guess you didn't really expect her to sacrifice herself necessarily, but maybe, I guess if you watch enough cliched horror films, you would have picked up on that. Getting into the production design, that's another highlight here. The Conjuring universe always nails its vintage aesthetic. The classic horror films, classic like Exorcist style era of movies. The strollers, the furniture, the old wallpaper, the clothing, it all looks great. You can tell they really put thought into capturing kind of that late 60s vibe, and the movie looked pretty decent in that regard. So getting into the bad, now we can kind of talk about the parts that didn't hit. I'll start by saying that nothing here really angered me. There's nothing really overwhelmingly terrible about the film. It's just a very middle of the road film, and I do think naturally some of that stuff is going to fall into this section. The cliches are all there. You know, you have lights flickering, doors creaking, random footsteps, mirrors moving, all the stuff you've seen 1,000 times before. It's not frustrating. A lot of the stuff is kind of whatever, and I do think debatably some of the stuff could have been put in the okay, but I digress. I think the biggest issue for me is that none of it even feels real too, and I think the whole angle of them going for like a psychological horror, whereas Annabelle Creations felt very real. It felt like that was in the room with us, but they have these really weird tactics as a director. Linetti, however you say his name, has this weird thing where the demon like attacks you and then it disappears and it's like, oh, that was a hallucination. It's like, that's really dumb. I don't like the idea of one person seeing something and the other person not seeing it. I know hallucinations are a very real thing, especially with like evil presences, but like, come on, man, seriously. Again, I don't mean in a supernatural sense. I mean the scares don't have much weight. Again, the psychological horror angle, Mia's hallucinating, imagining some of it, it doesn't do much. I've never been a fan of that approach. I've never really been a fan of psychological horror. I think the only effective one was probably Stir of Echoes. For me, I need the horror to exist in the world of the movie, not be brushed off as maybe it was all in her head. Like, no, I want this to be a real experience. The whole disappearing wound thing, that was dumb. I mean, let the consequences stick. That's how you make things scary. Like, the husband comes back, and sure, it's like a convenience, so like the husband has this ploy to like not believe her. Oh, it's gone now. Like, are you serious? There are also a few eye-rolling moments here, mostly when the movie tries to tie things together too neatly. Like, I get what they were doing with the priest, but he's kind of just a plot device. His big take the doll to the church moment should have hit harder, but it ends up feeling like another checkbox in the script. Like, oh yeah, something bad happened to him, so he just proved to you just now that there's an evil presence. Like, are you serious right now? The movie wants to be profound about sacrifice and faith, but it never really earns these emotions. It doesn't really go into it and go deep into something and make it feel real and make it feel genuine and not just a cop-out for other things. And I gotta say, after Creation, this one just looks and feels less inspired. Now, I know there probably was critical reception. You know, when this movie came out, people were probably saying, like, this is kind of meh. And maybe they're like, you know what, let's boot it up again, have a prequel, and make it better. And they did that. But it's not great. I mean, the camera work, the effects, everything feels a notch below. It's not bad. It's just flatter. It's just doesn't really hit the same as the other film. So getting into the okay, this is kind of just the stuff I didn't mention. Again, just talking about the priest as a character. He's fine. He's just a very generic, like, priest, religious man that just wants to help the family. His role is necessary, but he's not a very memorable priest. And not a lot of these priests are memorable in these movies. Like, the Exorcist one is, but like, that movie literally damn near invented that whole trope of, oh, the priest is coming to like help you out. And I do like the approach of him like taking matters into his own hands and taking the doll to the church and doing all this stuff. But again, that was such a short-lived situation that it doesn't even feel like it needed to be here. The bookstore lady's fine. She's there for exposition and not much else. The aesthetic is again a win for this universe. I've kind of gone through a lot of this stuff. There's really not much to say about these movies. This movie's like an hour 40 long. It's one of the shorter films I've probably covered on the channel in a while. The vintage baby gear, again, the old apartment, the record players, the way they use color, that's really well done. I'll give them credit for that. It's one of the few things that consistently makes these movies fun to look at, even when the scares don't land, even when the story's not great. It's still a fun movie to look at, and the imagery is decent. Very surface level lore as well. You get the basics. You have an evil cult, demonic attachment, possession, case file for the Warrens, all of this different stuff going in, but nothing that really deepens the mythology, nothing that really affects this. You could probably watch the prequel and damn near just skip to the next movie. Now, I don't know how Annabelle Comes Home goes, or like what plot devices they tried to do, what the storyline is. I'll get to that when I get this video done, which hopefully like Sunday night I can start watching that movie. That'll be exciting. But it doesn't really advance anything. We knew about Annabelle in the prequel, and actually for a prequel, they explained that quite fucking well, the whole origin story. It's just not much here. Again, compared to Creation, which built the story from tragedy and emotion, this just kind of exists. It's more of a stepping stone than a story worth remembering, so that's kind of all I got there. So getting into the review, pull up the tier list. This isn't a bad movie, it's just okay. It is the definition of meh. It carries the franchise forward in a functional way, fills in some blanks, introduces some lore, gives us the Warrens cameo, and they're a huge part of the Conjuring universe, but it doesn't really stand out on its own. And I know this left a bad taste in people's mouths when it first came out, because it took them 3 years to make another one of these. The scares are fine but not memorable, the story is simple but not gripping, and the tone just feels a little safe compared to the much creepier, more cinematic Creation. Again, I think that film is better. I think a general audience would say that as well. It's like they wanted to make something scary without really pushing the boundaries. They very formulaic in this. They very much went to like an exorcism or like a Paranormal Activity or some of the movies within the universe with like the Conjuring stuff. They really didn't push anything. And to be fair, it still works as a background Halloween watch. Like, it looks good, it's paced fine, and it gives you the general creepy doll energy you came for, but compared to Creation, it's definitely the weaker film in the series so far. Now again, I'll have to see how Annabelle Comes Home goes. It's decent, it's passable, but it's not remarkable. So for me, this one falls right into that middle zone, 6.6 out of 10. It is in the dungeon of decent. That's kind of what I call the tier. I don't know if I changed that or not. Back when I was a big horror movie fan, I was like doing the themes, but you can see it. It's in the 6 range, or whatever that says. With that being said, guys, I am out. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. Check out the socials. It has been your boy GZTV all month long. We have about 3 more weeks left of October. Very exciting stuff. I'll be covering as many scary movies as I can. If I have time, I will be getting into some of the Insidious movies that I missed out on first pass through. It's been a fun time. These first 2 movies weren't bad. Again, Creation overwhelmingly trumps this one, but still continues to be a horror movie. I don't know.